returns, right? But in most general scenario, what we observe is the VAR, the returns, they do not follow a normal distribution. For some of the scenarios being because of the interest rate fluctuation, because when we have taken the asset returns, asset in this case we have taken as a stock. So the asset returns are, if everything is stable, let's say the interest rates are stable during the entire period, let's say the political situations are stable during the entire period, then there is a good possibility that the returns will follow a normal, or probably if the company conditions are also stable. Because in the Infosys case, why did we find a non-normality? The day the results were announced, there were some specific poking events, right? The day when the results were announced, the expectations were completely different and the realities were completely different. So because of that, there was a huge fall or huge increase in the price on those days. So because of some of the things like interest rate volatility, changing in the economic or the political scenario, we see some of the days the returns will be either too high or too low, and that weirdness will cause the values to deviate away from the normal distribution. So what is being said is, you should make sure that your model, that is where the complexity is coming up. If I know with just by removing 2-3 values I can ensure the normality of the data, then probably we will still incur those extreme values, right? When in the last 250 days there were 3 or 4 days which had those extreme values, which means there is a 2% chance or 1% chance that those extreme values are very much possible, right? So that is where the models are talking about how do you incorporate even those kind of things to build up your VAR more and more comfortably. How do you incorporate even those kind of data, which means my data is becoming fat tail rather than a normal tail. When I say fat tail, probably the chance of observing, see, as per normal, the chance of observing, let's say the data beyond this point, if I am assuming that beyond this is my tail, the chance of observing beyond this point, let's say, is 1%. But when I am talking about a fat tail, the chance of observing beyond this point, the same point, beyond this point, probably is 2 or 2.5% or 3%, depending on how fat the tail is, right? The chance of observing beyond a certain point will either increase or decrease. So we have to make sure how do we address those kind of fat tail scenarios and come out with a much better definition of the VAR. And in that also, if the fat tail occurs towards the right, no one is bothered about it, right? Probably there is instead of saying there is a 1% chance that your daily gain is more than $500, if someone says there is a 5% chance that your daily gain is more than $500, no one is bothered about that statement at all. Whereas as a risk manager, my focus comes on the negative side of the tail. When I say there is 1% chance that your loss will be more than $500, versus if it is a fat tail, I may have to say there is a 5% chance that your loss will be more than $500 in a single day. Then that is more and more alarming. So that is where the negative side is the primary focus for any kind of a risk manager. And whenever we are designing those things, the instability of the model parameters